Welcome back into that Sean podcast. Well now, we got a lot to talk about. I am that big us. Over here is that Cat Daddy. Cat Daddy, what's on your mind?
Man, this past week in football was crazy. We had Ben Roethlisberger announcing his retirement. We had Sean Payton stepping away, but not retiring. We had other people announce that Tom Brady was retiring, only for Brady to say he's not retiring, then just to retire a few days later. Then we saw some movement with the coaching carousel. We saw the conference championship games deliver what I thought was a good follow-up to last week's super divisional round. We saw overtime. We saw demons get exercised. We saw something that we've never seen before, and that is a team play defense in overtime. And still, nobody cares about the new nickname for the Washington football team.
Has it happened?
It's happening tomorrow, but it's been leaked like 45 times already. It's going to be the Washington Commanders.
The what? Washington what?
Commanders. The Washington Commanders.
Are they like, whatchamacallit, one of those B teams? Like that sounds like an NBA B team name. Just saying.
No, it's one of those names. It seems like one of those names from Madden where you get to relocate and choose a new franchise name.
See, you ruined my joke because I was going to say I'm more excited for Jack Reacher than I am. If anybody knows, there's a new Jack Reacher TV show, and it's got an actor I really like in it who fits Jack Reacher more than Tom Cruise. Check it out. It's on Amazon. Now, Amazon, come pay us too. We'll take some sponsorship.
Yeah.
But the Commanders, huh?
Yep. Apparently, somebody
who they commanded
close the blinds, and they can't even command their own team. I don't know what they're doing.
All right, but on to the real news. The big deal of the whole week, Mr. the greatest of all time. I'm not knocking him. I mean, I'll give him his props. I have a little bit of debates on certain things because I still think football is a team sport. But the guy with all the accolades, the guy who, from what I hear, is a lot of fun, liking his commercials. Hopefully he does more now that he's more time on his hands. But Mr. Tom Brady has officially retired. Now note to everybody, Adam Schefter, who's in the know on a lot of things, had leaked that Tom Brady was retiring. The whole world went crazy. And then all of a sudden, and Tom Brady's dad's coming out and saying he ain't had no decision. The Bucs are coming out and saying Tom Brady's told us there's no decision. Then Tom Brady comes out and goes on a podcast. And I think in just petty fashion, basically just some crap to lecture the media and what their right is and what their right isn't, just to the next morning, retire. I think that's all that was for. Was Tom Brady basically to say, you guys are stupid.
I think that Brady wanted to, first of all, he wanted to retire on his own terms, and he wanted to announce it himself. I mean, look at the brand and the empire he's trying to build with the whole TV brand. And it sounds like he didn't want to take away from the championship weekend and have anything come out on Saturday or Sunday to take away from the games. He wasn't going to do it on his podcast because he was interviewing Joe Burrow, and I don't think he wanted to take away from anything that was going on in that episode. And what better time to retire than now, because we have that short lull. It's the couple days after the championship games have been played, and we still have almost 2 weeks until the Super Bowl plays. So there's going to be that low period of news, but not this year, because Tom Brady is like, let me announce it now. That way everything's all settled down.
There's a low
no
period?
Distractions from the Super Bowl. There's no low period this year because we got more.
Because, Tom Brady isn't even the real big story of the week. So, but we're going to move in before we get into that one. We're going to go into some of these coaching hires.
Before we get into that, are you happy or are you sad that Tom
As a
Brady's
fan,
retired?
I am very happy that Tom Brady's gone. I'm sorry. I'm not one of these people who loves to watch Tom Brady. I don't want to have that potential loss on my team's record. I'm not even one of those people, those people, I want my team to play the best. No, forget that noise. I want my team to play cupcakes the whole way to the Super Bowl.
And in the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Darn right. I know you agree.
It would make it a lot easier, a lot less stressful, less anxiety having watching these games.
Don't get me wrong. I like a good game as much as the next one person, but I love seeing my team dominate.
I have mixed emotions about him retiring. I'm happy because he gets to
NFL's
leave.
in good hands.
Yeah, he gets to leave the game on his own terms while he's still playing at a very high level. Because you think back a couple of years ago, you remember how Peyton Manning went out? Yeah, rough. He won the championship, but he was banged up. His arm wasn't rough. The same.
It was rough.
On the field, Tom Brady had nothing left to accomplish, and the only way his ending could have been better is if he would have retired right after winning a Super Bowl, just like John Elway did. But at the same time, there's a little bit of sadness because we're thinking...
But even Elway.
Man.
Even Elway wasn't the same guy his last season. He rode Terrell Davis that whole year.
He did. And then there's sadness to it. We're thinking, man, we know every story has to come to an end. And we were fortunate enough to witness his entire career. We saw the Super Bowls that he reached. We saw the records that he broke. And I have a hard time seeing any player, let alone quarterback, matching what he did in his lifetime. I have a hard time seeing that.
You never know.
And it's like, we got to see greatness. It's like, we got to see Michael Jordan. We got to see Wayne Gretzky. We got to see the greats.
You never know.
We got to see the Rock and Stone Cold, right? There's that level of, they were at the top of their game, and we got to hard to replicate. Not that it can't be done, but in Tom Brady's 22 seasons, he was a starter for 21 of them. He had a winning record in all 21 seasons.
He made the Super Bowl in 10 of them.
Won 7 of them.
Yeah.
He went to the playoffs 19 times.
All right. But we are pushing it up. So we got to get to the coaches. Sorry. I know we could do a whole episode on Tom Brady, but we're moving on to some of these coaching hires. Actually, all of these coaching hires, because last episode, no one
had been hired. We knew some dominoes were going to fall.
To get to.
We knew some dominoes were going to fall.
First domino that fell, I believe, was the Broncos. Wait, right? Am I right?
Yep,
Nathaniel Hackett. And I got to believe that now I know they're saying no because, they can't say this, but I got to believe Nathaniel Hackett was like giving a wink, wink, nod, nod. You know something? I can get Aaron Rodgers here.
A little nudge, nudge, hush, hush. Yeah.
One of those little,
Maybe. I think the only thing that doesn't work in that favor is the quarterback coach that Rodgers has been working with for the past couple of years went to Chicago.
Well, that don't help Green Bay either.
Yeah, exactly. Green Bay lost their offensive coordinator. They lost their quarterback coach. They just their special teams coordinator. They promoted their offensive line coach to offensive coordinator. So there's a lot of changes that are going on in the Green Bay roster with this coaching staff, and it's going to be hard to see if Rodgers comes back considering the cap situation.
We'll see what happens there.
Daniel's got a nice in with Rodgers. Mm-hmm.
We'll see. All right, next up, it was the Bears that toppled the next one, which is this one I thought was a bit of an odd hire. Not that I don't like Matt Eberflus. It was just odd one. He's done really well in Indy, but you look at the trends on how things work. They just went from, I get it. They just went from an offensive guy, but it was a bad offensive guy. And right now they have a young quarterback and a good defense. I don't see piling on with another defensive guy and then having to hire an offensive guy. You know, I see more. I think they should have hired an offensive head coach to, you know, culminate what they need to do. Because I mean, what happens if what's his name, Dorsey, I believe, is the guy they're targeting for the OC. What if he does wonders with Fields? He's going to be getting head coach offers next year.
Well, yeah, that's one of the risks. And the Bears already hired an offensive coordinator. They hired Luke Getsy, who was Green Bay's quarterback coach,
Right.
who worked with. So, and Luke Getsy even had, I think, 1 or 2 head coaching interviews this round. So if he does a fantastic job with Justin Fields, and he starts getting more offers next year and the following year, then it's almost like you're setting Justin Fields back from the perspective that you have to bring in a new offensive coordinator, a new system. Well, it may not be an entirely new system since Nathaniel, or it would be new because Eberflus's defense, yeah. So, yeah, how much are you going to stunt his growth if you go through and you experience the changes?
Exactly.
Yeah, if I were the Bears, I agree with you. I would have gone for an offensive-minded coach. That way, he has that consistency.
And all right, next up, I'm not exactly sure exactly. Well, who was the next one? Was it New York? Was the next domino to fall?
Giants. Yep.
Yeah, the New York Giants hire. I forgot his first name, but it was Brian Daboll, and I mean, very good coach. You know, out of Buffalo, has worked wonders with Josh Allen. You got what's the scrub's name? I mean, what's the quarterback's name? Daniel Jones in New York, who has a similar skill set to Josh Allen. He's like Josh Allen, you know, really weak light beer type thing going on there. Maybe he could do a little something, you know, because the organization said they want to see what Daniel Jones can do with better coaching. They have conceded the fact that they've been horrible, and maybe better coaching is what is needed.
That was really good for the New York Giant management and that executive team to come out and say, you know, we pretty much did everything possible to screw this kid's development up. So I think that was great for them to say. I think Brian Daboll is going to be a good influence on Daniel Jones. Whether Daniel Jones can turn it around and benefit from it, it's a different story, which we're going to find out soon. But the Giants are in a position where Jones is now going into his 4th year. So they have to decide this offseason, do they pick up that 5th-year option? Worst case scenario, they don't pick it up. He plays well, and then they either get an extension or they sign him to the franchise tag the following year. So there's a lot of options that they have. I love the comparison to light beer, because I really think that was very accurate. You think Josh Allen is built like a linebacker. Daniel Jones is not. So, good comparison.
All right, next up, I believe, is it Vegas? Did we have anybody before Vegas?
No, I think Vegas was the
last hire. Las Vegas shocks the world and lures Josh McDaniels away from New England. And actually, I thought about this. I know the Vegas players are really upset, but I think this is a perfect hire. I think this is an absolute perfect hire because I think Derek Carr is the perfect type of quarterback for Josh McDaniels. I really do. I really do. He's a safe guy.
Look how well he did with Mac Jones this year, a rookie.
Right.
Imagine the influence.
Or Kyle Orton when he had Kyle Orton.
Yeah. In Denver, let's forget about Tim Tebow for a minute.
Nope.
And then, nope. He didn't coach anybody in Indianapolis. But, speaking of Indianapolis,
he still has a chance to go back to New England.
It's no. It's funny though, because when Josh McDaniels accepted the job and he was putting together his coaching staff, his defensive coordinator in Indianapolis was Eberflus, and And then Frank Reich decided to keep
Just
him.
keep him.
Yeah, and look how that turned out really well for him.
It just, I mean, you got to think though. Now, Las Vegas absolutely, with the roster that you see, with it being McDaniels, they're absolutely drafting either an offensive lineman or a wide receiver in that first round. That it's hands down. You got to think that. You got to think no way they go defense.
No, I'd be leading offense with that. No.
All right. Next up, just some of the rumors. Big rumors swirling around because apparently D'Amico Ryans, something about Minnesota, maybe it was the weather that made him decide he didn't really want that job or didn't want to try to get that job. It sounds like Jim Harbaugh is going a little bit ways from his old stomping grounds to face his old team, the Bears, in the near future. That's the rumor that Jim Harbaugh is going to be the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. How you feel about that, Sean, being a Green Bay fan who could be losing Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I mean, just losing Aaron Rodgers is just horrible enough as it is.
And then you got a quarterback coach going to be the OC of the Bears, and Jim Harbaugh coming to Minnesota. How does that make you feel?
It is what it is. I mean, what do we have to look forward to? We have hell coming up because we're 46 over the cap. We have expiring contracts that we may not be able to bring back. Devontae's not going to play without Aaron. Aaron's not going to play without Devontae.
I forgot something.
What's up?
You also have this college dude who might be going or staying in Detroit, who I know you really loved during the college season, coming to wreak havoc on your offensive line.
Yeah.
That possibly could be happening too.
I know. It's not looking good for Green Bay, at least not right now. Jim Harbaugh is the favorite, but he has his second interview scheduled with Minnesota in Minnesota on Wednesday. National Signing Day for college is Wednesday.
So
what if Jim Harbaugh is using this as a way to get more money out of Michigan since he had to restructure his contract?
Hey, you never know. You never know.
Maybe we'll be lucky enough to do that, but he's got that connection with the new GM, Luis Teodoro-Mensah, because they spent time in San Francisco together. So I have a feeling we'll be seeing Jim Harbaugh back in the NFC North.
Onwards to more rumors. Miami, who had a kind of not so great divorce with a specific coach recently. They've got two second interviews happening with Dallas offensive coordinator Kellen Moore and San Francisco offensive coordinator Mike McDaniels. A lot of people believe this is Mike McDaniels' job to lose, but Kellen Moore has a chance.
I think it's Mike McDaniel.
You're not the only one. There's a lot of other people.
Miami completely slow played Ryan DeBall hiring and interviewing, so they missed on that opportunity because they're doing something in Miami. They got a lot going on, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Stephen Ross try and make an attempt at Jim Harbaugh. If Minnesota extends an offer, I think Stephen Ross might extend an offer as well.
And what'll happen is Minnesota's going to be like, no, you're not allowed. Because that has happened, I believe, twice to Miami now. Because was it Jacksonville or Miami that went after Hackett and the Broncos were like, no, you can't have our guy. and the ball that happened. All right, now I think we got two teams left to talk about. Am I wrong? Am I right or wrong?
We got three.
All right. You know which ones are the two horrid ones. What's the third one that I'm missing?
New Orleans.
Oh, yes, New Orleans.
Which is also a horrid one.
But no, not as the same. Like, their process they process started late, and it's because Sean Payton, retired. I mean, they've got interviews all over the place. Honestly, I don't understand how Dennis Allen hasn't been hired already. I get you have the Rooney Rule, but Dennis Allen just makes so much sense.
He does. I would be very surprised if it was not Dennis Allen. However, it could be a former Saints staff member. It could be someone like Aaron Glenn leaving Detroit to go to New Orleans. I could see that. I know.
You know who else is getting some buzz? Who's that the Giants defensive coordinator?
Patrick Graham. He actually might be in contention for the Minnesota job. I think that's the only one he's up for right now.
All right, now let's get to these other two teams. All right, so Jacksonville pooped their way out of multiple coaching hires. One in particular, which was Byron Leftwich. And basically, Byron Leftwich said he wants a job, but he doesn't want to work with Trent Baalke. He wants to work with Adrian Wilson. They stood fast because Trent Baalke's got, pitchers or something on the cons, and he's not going anywhere. They brought Vic Fangio. No one seems to want this job. This feels like Houston all over again last year.
Yeah, you're thinking Jacksonville sitting there. They got the number one draft pick. You've got Trevor Lawrence. You've got $59 million in cap space. Your biggest expiring contract is Cam Robinson, I think. No big loss with how he's played. But you have one of the worst rosters in the NFL, and Trent Baalke is still the GM. Like, what's more undesirable? Jacksonville, New Orleans, or Houston?
What we're about to talk about, Houston is Houston, and Houston has just had some poor business practices lately. David Culley being unceremoniously escorted out of the building after having what everyone believes is a successful season for what he was given.
Almost got my coach of the year vote, yeah.
He made Davis Mills look like an actual quarterback in this league. He was very competitive in many games. He had Lovie Smith with the greatest Santa Claus beard ever. But, nobody wants this job. Nobody wants this job. They're trying to hire multiple guys. They've tried to bring multiple guys in, and except for one guy who we both agree is not qualified for the job, and that seems to be Josh McCown.
They're trying to make Josh McCown a thing. Houston's sitting here. They've got the number 3 pick. They've got nearly $18 million in cap space. One of the worst rosters in the NFL. You got the lowest expectations, I think, of any team in the league. Who would want that?
All this being said, I want to know what happened, because the one guy we both agreed was probably the shoe-in for this job if he wanted it, and I guess he must have decided he didn't want it, is Brian Flores. He had seemingly a second interview lined up, from my understanding, and all of a sudden, the big news drops that he is suing the NFL. He is suing the NFL because none other than Bill Belichick apparently texted him, congratulating him on getting the Giants job. And apparently he messaged back, I don't interview until next week. And then Bill's still going in, and then he realizes, like, Bill, you know this is Coach Brian Flores, right? He's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I have to stop.
I thought I was talking to Brian Daboll. Yeah, sure, Bill. Sure. You didn't know who you were texting? Mr. Meticulous himself?
Well, he's already admitted that he's not good with technology, and it wouldn't surprise me.
No. You know better. Regardless being good with technology.
But it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Bill Belichick did this on purpose. Just to get back at the NFL for all the Deflate Gates, the Spy Gates, everything they've thrown at the Patriots and Robert Kraft over the years. Just imagine Bill with a smile on his face sending these texts to Brian
Okay,
Flores.
well, watch this. And then, and now Brian Flores is accusing the NFL of multiple things, which we're not going to get into. We're not going to get into all of them on this pod. You know, we don't get political. We don't take sides. We don't do none of that stuff. Well, we technically do take sides. Personally, you know how I feel. I do not like the NFL as an organization. I damn sure don't like the Giants. I think the Mara family is atrocious. So, I mean, I do have opinions there. Are some of the stuff that um, Brian Flores saying true? Possibly, but I'm not gonna be one of these people on Twitter basically say, yeah, definitely this is what it is. There's more to it that goes into it than that. So I'm not gonna sit here and say organizations like the Giants and like the Broncos are doing the stuff that these people are saying. All I'm saying, this is hot button and this will not go away. Especially, I mean, they need this Super Bowl. And they need Dr. Dre and them to be at the Super Bowl to distract from this story, because this is going to be a big story through the off season. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts here, Sean?
No, I think we share a very, very similar, if not the same opinion, that we do believe that the NFL needs more minority head coaches than what they have now.
Change.
They've got to change. But we also agree that the best person needs to be in that position. And and I guess that's where the hypothetical comes in, because Brian Flores, I thought, would have been really good for New York, for Houston, for really any of the open positions. I thought he would have been great for.
Now I have heard some rumblings around the league that where Brian Flores himself is a fantastic coach in terms of establishing a coaching staff, he does not have the appropriate connections or has not done the appropriate networking to outside New England to make that happen with the best people. Now, should that deter him from getting a job? I don't know.
It could, because if you're a GM and you're sitting in that interview and you're asking them, like, all right, hey, what's your plan for your staff? I'm going to bring in a bunch of people I knew from New England. Now, GMs would be sitting there thinking, man, we haven't seen the New England tree do very well outside of New England.
No, but with that said, guys like Jim Caldwell or Marvin Lewis, I'm very surprised these guys have not gotten another job. Marvin Lewis, I know Cincinnati's in the Super Bowl this year, but Marvin Lewis took Cincinnati to the Super Bowl, not to the playoffs, consistently. You know, and then Jim Caldwell, I mean, that was the Lions. The Lions weren't good teams, and he had the Lions in the playoffs. So, I mean, yes, do certain things have to change? Yes, obviously. Certain considerations have to be made. But we also have Byron Leftwich trying to leverage himself out of a job. You have D'Amico Ryans turning down a job, basically. I mean, we'll have to see what happens in the future. Some guys might be happy in the places they are because they see what happens to head coaches when they fail. You know, Todd Bowles, some people think that's a fireable offense, but you know Bruce Arians isn't getting rid of Todd Bowles as his defensive coordinator. But if he was a head coach, an owner could look at that situation that happened where he's the one responsible and saying, you got the axe.
Yeah, and I know they say they're tired of seeing the former head coaches get other opportunities. And when you're looking at it so far, of the 4 head coaches that have been hired, only Josh McDaniels served as a head coach previously.
There you go.
So it's not like there's not fresh blood in there. There's a lot of it. There's a lot. There's Hackett, Eberflus, and Dayball. All 3 of them are new.
And if you get one of those people that wants a minority hire, root for Mike McDaniels from Miami. I'm just saying. A certain news outlet found out this dude's biracial. I know he don't look it, but he is.
Man, all right. I thought D'Amico Ryans was going to go to Minnesota.
You did, but I mean, he turned it down. He said no. I mean, like I said, could be the weather. Or it could be the sole fact he might like being a defensive coordinator for Kyle Shanahan. Some people like specific jobs.
There's less pressure.
For example, Will McClay for the Cowboys loves his position. He could be a GM anywhere in this league. Any GM job that opens, it used to be people wanted to interview Will McClay. They stopped interviewing him because they know he's never leaving his spot in Dallas. He loves the position where Jerry takes all the heat. He does all the work behind the scenes, and he doesn't have to speak to the media.
Hey, that's a win-win.
I mean, it is. I mean, he gets to do what he loves because he's pretty much the guy who does all the draft scouting. He does a lot of especially the undrafted and those like finding those diamonds in the roughs like J-Ron Curse and all of them. He's the guy who does that. Him and his staff. But he doesn't have to go in front of the media. Think about that. And you know Jerry's paying them well.
Oh, yeah. No one's gonna match Jerry's wallet. That's for sure.
And of course, he's a Dallas guy. Some people just like being, if they're at home or if they're in a situation that's just better for their sensibilities. Now, moving on from the coaching talk, because we only got a little bit of time left, and we got to talk about these games. So, first game up, we're going to talk about the Bengals versus the Chiefs. And the Cincinnati Bengals shocked the world. Well, I mean, not the whole world. I had an idea that it could happen. Yes, I had picked KC, but I had an idea that it could happen. But they went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs for the second time. But this time when it mattered most. And this was a fun game. The game started out with everybody thinking that Kansas City is just going to run away with this. 21-3. And all of a sudden, Bengals get that score at the end of the half. Then they open up. KC comes down. I believe they get 3. The rest of the game, it's all Bengals.
Yeah, I feel like...
Go ahead.
I felt like we saw a repeat of the Week 16 matchup.
It was worse.
Now, some of the finer details are a little bit different, but we saw Cincinnati trailing by double digits at halftime. We saw Cincinnati's offense and defense turn it on in the second half. We saw Kansas City fail to get the offense moving after halftime and only score 3 points in the second half of each game. And we saw Cincinnati win with a game-winning field goal on the final play. It was like a repeat from Week 16.
How many passing yards did Patrick Mahomes have in the second half?
Oh, that was ridiculous. It was like 50, I think. 50 some.
16.
6, wait. 1.
What's that?
1, 6. 16. Is that what it is?
16.
Man. And the inconsistency of the Chiefs offense is their undoing, just like it was in the beginning of the season. It's Cincinnati's first half, or Kansas City's first half. They were trouncing the Bengals. You're thinking, man, their Cinderella season is over. Kansas City's going through a 3rd consecutive Super Bowl. Nobody was giving Cincinnati a chance or a shot at the end of the first half. The only thing that went wrong was poor clock management at the end of the first half and Cincinnati's defense coming up with a big stop. Now, how big was that stop considering that their offense did nothing in the second half? Second half plus overtime, we saw a completely different Kansas City offense. We saw the same one from early season, one that couldn't get the offense moving. We saw one that was dropping passes. We saw Patrick Mahomes making poor decisions and poor throws. But I don't want to focus on Kansas City too much because I think a lot of credit has to go to the Cincinnati defense in that second half of that game.
Yes, because there is one part. I get that the scheme was really nice, but I'm sorry. When Casey was down at the goal line, and they could have went in to get the touchdown to basically win the game. What was Patrick Mahomes doing? What in the world was he doing running around? Like, I get it. This is some of the stuff he does. Bruh, I've thought it before in the past. You're not Michael Vick. All right? And I know Michael Vick is one of those names that's kind of taboo for people. If you ever watch Michael Vick play, Michael Vick can do those turnstiles and find somebody. But you ain't him. Yeah, you're awesome. But you ain't him. Stop doing that stuff. Okay? It's like, seriously. I didn't understand what he was doing.
Yeah, and that's
Other
where
than just wasting time.
the poor decision making came in for Patrick Mahomes. He could have gotten off quick passes. He could have thrown the ball away. Actually, late in the fourth quarter, when they had, what was it, 2nd and 4, and they were going to score, he takes the sack because he's running around trying to make something happen. He's out there trying to play hero ball. And you gotta blame Andy Reid for some of this too, because when there is less than 2 minutes on the clock and you're 4 yards away from the end zone, you just run the ball. Why didn't you run the ball more in the second half? Why didn't you run the ball more in these situations to go down and kill the clock? And now you have third and goal from the 9-yard line, and Andy Reid dials up another pass play. Now this time, Patrick Mahomes gets sacked for a 17-yard loss, which resulted in a fumble that Kansas City fortunately recovered and were able to kick the game-tying field goal. But he was like a chicken without his head back there. He's running around,
It was
spinning
wacky.
in circles. It was frustrating to watch. I mean, I was rooting for Kansas City. That's where I had my picks. I wanted them to win. Watching Patrick Mahomes run around like that this is amateur hour.
It was wacky. It was very wacky. It was weird. It was very weird. All right. That being said, Joe Burrow did his job, but that, like you said, the Cincinnati defense showed up. Not to push it along, but we got to. Next up, we have the Niners going into LA, face those Rams. It was a good game. Good game overall. Lots of really nice defense. The quarterback play, in my opinion, was up and down. You saw some really good play. You saw some really bad play. The Rams at times did not want to win. You had Cooper Kupp drop a ball that probably would have went for a touchdown. You had this other dude whose name I cannot pronounce. I forgot his name. I'm sorry. He dropped a touchdown. Then you had Matthew Stafford doing his best to try to throw an interception to the Niners, and they couldn't hold on to the ball. Then you had Jimmy G trying to throw interceptions to Jalen Ramsey and company, and they couldn't hold on to the ball. In the end, one of the big factors here is the creativity of Sean McVay and how he would get his number one guy open, and that would be Cooper Kupp. This is what I think. I honestly think this is the difference in the game. Sean McVay got his guy Cooper Kupp open and got the ball in his guy's hands. Kyle Shanahan did not. He did not get Debo open. He did not get the ball in Debo's hands. Debo did not have the opportunity to make plays. And some people say it could be the quarterback, because apparently there was a time where Debo was open and Garoppolo didn't see him. But it's still the consistency of trying to get him the ball didn't happen. It looked like their game plan was, we're going to do quick passing, which means getting the ball to Ayuk, which played right into the Rams' hands because the Rams are doubling Ayuk the whole game.
Yeah, San Francisco is so afraid of that Los Angeles pass rush that they altered the game plan. They got Deebo Samuel involved in the first half. He looked good in the first half. Second half, it's almost like he got an opportunity every 4 or 5 plays when it should have been much more frequently. But the Rams are showing us that you can buy your way to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, we may not have seen the best version of Matthew Stafford this weekend, but we saw.
But it got done.
We saw the job that he did. He did what he had to do. Cooper Kupp was virtually unstoppable. Odell Beckham Jr., it looks like he made the right choice when he was a free agent with where to sign. And
He did.
I'm kind of curious what San Francisco's defense is doing in the fourth quarter, because first you have the dropped interception from Jaworski Tart on a poorly underthrown ball by Matthew Stafford, and that might have been one of the easiest interceptions.
No,
That
the
could have
easiest
changed the
interception
game.
that came later when Ramsey dropped the one that Garoppolo threw right to him.
And then following that play by San Francisco, there was the helmet-to-helmet penalty on Jimmy Ward when Odell Beckham Jr. caught the ball on the sideline. So not only did you get a 29-yard reception, but you also gave up another 15 yards because you have the unnecessary roughness penalty, and those 15 yards proved to be very valuable because that got the Los Angeles Rams into field goal position, where Matt Gay kicked a 40-yard field goal instead of a 55-yarder, ties the game up at 17.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jimmy Garoppolo did Jimmy Garoppolo things. Nobody should be surprised by this. The box score will look good. It shows that he threw for 232, 2 touchdowns, interception. But it doesn't tell the whole story. He had some good throws in there. Touchdown pass to George Hill.
He
a really good throw.
Well, but not great.
He made some bad throws, so what should have been turnovers that weren't. And over half of his passing yardage was because his playmakers did all the work.
Well, of course, because that's that
Debo's. Yeah, exactly. You get the ball to the playmaker. They do all the hard work. Jimmy Garoppolo gets the stats. So I feel really bad for any team that acquires Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason, because they're going to find out, hey, we don't have the same playmakers as the 49ers, and Jimmy Garoppolo is not putting up the same.
We better hope they have the same playmakers.
Yeah.
All right. All that being said, we got one more thing to speak about real quick. With Tom Brady retiring from the Bucs, which quarterback, who do you think will be starting for the Bucs come week 1 next year, or this year?
Oh man. So on the roster, they have Blaine Gabbert and they have Kyle Trask. They just drafted Trask in the second round.
Do you think that it's going to be a roster guy?
Oh, you're thinking free agents are going to be probably Teddy Bridgewater,
who apparently Bruce Arians likes.
Marcus Mariota could be an option. Jameis Winston is going to be a free agent.
Who apparently he is not against.
Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be available
for trade.
Right.
Looking to trade him.
Exactly. And then who else could be looking to trade a quarterback? Minnesota could be looking to trade Kirk Cousins. Green Bay could be looking to trade Aaron Rodgers.
There's a dark horse free agent that's going to be out there.
Who's that?
Mitchell Trubisky. Who, in terms of skill set, checks all the Bruce Arians boxes.
It's going to be interesting because Tampa Bay still has a good roster together.
Yep, especially if they can get Godwin back.
If they get him to stay, I think Byron Leftwich staying in Tampa Bay will help.
So that's one thing to monitor. We're not really going to be getting the free agency until a little bit later, but just wanted to pose the question. All right. Any words of wisdom this week, Cat Daddy?
I got words of wisdom. If you have any friends or loved ones who are Cleveland Brown fans, you need to check on them this week. Their in-state division rival, the Cincinnati Bengals, are now in the Super Bowl. They're living the dream that Cleveland Brown fans should be living right now. Win the division, win some playoff games, go to the Super Bowl. And then on the other side, you have Odell Beckham Jr., formerly of the Browns, playing in the Super Bowl for the Rams. So if you know any Browns fans, better check on them this week. They are not doing okay.
My words of wisdom is things are not always as black and white as people make it out to be. There is gray areas, and certain statements people want to bring out there aren't always mutually exclusive. We talked about the coaching situation here. Saying the NFL needs more black coaches is not a mutually exclusive statement to saying the NFL teams need to hire the best candidates. Some of the black coaches are going to be the best candidates. Some of them aren't. Some of them aren't going to want jobs. Some of them are going to want different situations. It's a very murky situation. My whole part of this is once NFL teams have coaches, I don't care if they're black, white, Latin, whatever, they need to treat them better. The fact that certain coaches can be easily discardable because you don't like them or they irked you. One of my biggest examples is Mike Schottenheimer going 14-2 and getting fired. That makes no sense. Jim Caldwell's another big one for the Lions. Took the Lions to the playoffs 2 different years out of his 4 years there. Makes no sense why you'd fire him. So this is what I'm talking about. Look at the actual storyline behind all of this before rushing to judgment.